Okay. So good afternoon, class. So welcome to our Intermediate Accounting 3 discussion. So this time we'll be discussing the last chapter, which is the last part ng coverage ng ating finals, which is shareholders' equity. So when we say shareholders' equity, it literally means that we are talking about corporation. So when we say corporation, this is in terms of the advantages sa capitalization, management, and the organization itself is highest talaga si corporation. So, bukod dun sa capitalization management, so si corporation then also is yung pinakamahirap na ma-process no na type ng entity. So sabi dito, we are talking about shareholders equity kasi kailangan malaman natin kung paano ba natin i-account yung mga shareholders equity that we are talking about. So when we say shareholders equity, this is the excess of assets over the liabilities. So it means total assets less total liabilities would be the shareholders equity. So moving forward, so with our discussion, we'll be discussing using our book Intermediate Accounting 3 of Robles. So with regards to shareholders equity, ano ba yung madidiscuss natin sa topic na to? So we'll be discussing about the share capital transactions, dividends, treasury shares, and retained earnings, and also the appropriations of the retained earnings. And we'll also be tackling about the quasi-reorganization. So hindi ko lang din nasama dyan. We'll also talking about the share options, share warrants, etc., etc. And then book value per share, so I think we'll not be discussing that out since it's not considered or part of our finals. So moving forward, so when we say corporation, so ano ba yung distinguishment niya sa other entities? So si corporation is distinguished sa book natin, page 64. So from the other types or forms of business organization, so it has a limited liability of the owner. So it means if merong corporate creditors yung isang corporation, so pag may corporate creditors, hindi pwedeng habulin ng corporate creditors yung personal na ari-arian ng mga owners or yung mga shareholders. Kasi when you say limited liability of the owners, kung ano lang yung contribution nila dun sa entity, yun lang yung kayang or pwedeng habulin nung corporate creditors if ever hindi na makabayad si corporation. Now, for the second part, we have corporation is distinguished as an entity or that has the right of succession. So when we say right of succession, such that ownership shares may be transferred to another even without the consent of the existing shareholder. So, di ba, yung sa mga kailan, pag napapanood nyo, di ba, may mga part doon na hindi nila alam na majority of the shares owner na si ganito, si ganyan. Kasi nga, meron ding under corporation, so they have the right of succession. So even without the consent of other existing shareholders, pwedeng ma-transfer yung ownership. Okay? So, si corporation then is under income taxation is taxed separately. So, kaya sabi dan, it is taxed as a separate entity since as defined nga, di ba, si corporation under Republic Act 11232 is an artificial being created by the operation of law, having the right of succession, powers, attributes, and properties expressly authorized by law are incident to its existence. So, yun yung pangatlo natin. They are taxed as a separate entity. And then lastly, absentee ownership. So hindi porke shareholder ka, kailangan nandun ka talaga para hands-on ka dun sa business. So when we say absentee ownership, kahit hindi ikaw yung nagmamanage, okay lang, basta may owned shares ka. Kasi sa corporation, so nag-e-elect ng members of the board or the board of directors of which sila yung mag-oversee nung strategic and long-term planning nung certain corporation. So that's why it is also distinguished as a corporation is an absentee ownership. Okay, so moving forward, let's proceed with the categories under the shareholders equity with regards to financial possession. So when we say shareholders equity, so madami yung moving parts, no? When we say shareholders equity, so ang ginawang basis ko dito is yung sa reviewer, no? Pero when we say sa book natin, if you can see, sabi doon, kapag tinanong sa problem, for example, how much is the contributed or paid in capital? So, that means ang hinahanap doon, share capital plus share premium. Pero ang ginawa ko kasi dito sa slide ko is binasiya ko yung sa reviewer. So, ang hati-hati niya doon is una, share capital. So, when we say share capital, ordinary tsaka preference yon. So, either at par or at stated. And then, si reserves naman, so under naman niya would be the share premium, the appropriated retained earnings, and miscellaneous paid in capital. So, yun yung under naman nung reserves. Now, yung third naman nating bullet would be the retained earnings. So, that other term for this would be the accumulated profits or earnings. And the next would be the OCI or other comprehensive income. So, if you can still remember when we've discussed previously the debt investments, etc., etc. So, we recognize, di ba, unrealized gain or loss, and as well as the revaluation surplus when there's revaluation, realized gain or loss if there is an increase or decrease with the fair value of a specific FVOCI investments, right? So, when regards to other comprehensive income, so under na yung unrealized gain or losses under OCI, and then the revaluation surplus, like for example, yung sa PPE natin, nung discuss tayo nung Intact 2. And then lastly would be the contra shareholders equity. So when we say contra account, so it means kabawasan sa kanya. So under ng contra shareholders equity naman would be the subscription receivable and the treasury shares. So when we say subscription receivable, ibig sabihin yung pag merong sinubscribe na capital and hindi pa yun bayad, so, deduction sa kanya sila subscription receivable unless, sabihin sa problem, that the said receivable will be collected within 12 months after the reporting period. Pero without that term, so ang assumption kapag subscription receivable, deduction siya sa shareholders equity natin kasi siya ay contra shareholders equity. Now, when we say treasury share, so ito naman yung na-issue mo na siya sa shareholder mo pero nearly acquire mo siya, kaya ang may-ari na sa kanya would be the treasury or yung sa corporation itself. So that's why it's called treasury shares and it is a deduction from the shareholders' equity. Now, let's talk about share capital. So when we say share capital, when we share when we say share capital, so it is divided into two common types of share capital, which is a preference and then C ordinary. So when we say wait lang. So when we say preference shares, so it is a special class of shares. So with preferential rights. So when we say preference shares, so meron different types or characteristics preference shares. So pwedeng cumulative. So when we say cumulative preference shares, so it is entitled to dividends not declared in prior periods. So other term would be dividends in arrears. So if you can still remember, say for example, this year, you are entitled or the preference shareholder is entitled to 100,000 dividend, but the declaration only states that merong 90,000 lang na declaration out of the 100 that is they are entitled to. So yung 10,000 na yun, if cumulative yung preference share, yung 10,000 na yun would be carried over to the following period, and then that would be the preference shareholder that is cumulative will be entitled to receive as well that dividends that was not declared in the previous year that he is entitled into. So yung dividends in arrears, cumulative. Yung cumulative na dividend na hindi na declare or na-declare nga would be carried over to the following. So, entitled pa rin siya doon. So, yun yung cumulative. Now, when we say non-cumulative, edi kabaligtaran nun, ibig sabihin kapag hindi siya na-declare for this period, so hindi na siya magiging cumulative or mata-transfer in the next period. So, second would be participating. So, mamaya, madidiscuss kasi natin yung paano ba nagkakaroon ng distribution ng dividend kasi meron yung order of priority. So, when we say order of priority, say for example, may cumulative preference share. So, unang-munang pag-distributan would be the dividends in arrears kung cumulative. And then after nun, yung kung ano yung entitled, si ordinary, tsaka si preference. And then yung remainder, basically dapat sa ordinary shares lahat yon. Pero if participating, anong sabi dan? The preference shareholder is then entitled to additional dividends proportionate to the ordinary shareholders based on total par in excess of fixed amount or rate. So may discuss natin yon. So pag participating, any excess dividends would be distributed not only to the ordinary shareholder but also to the preference shareholder. Okay, so next naman natin would be convertible. So when we say convertible preference shares, so these are preference shares that you can be converted to ordinary shares. So we'll be discussing that out also moving forward. But initially, we've discussed some of those parts when we discussed the liabilities prior. Okay, so next naman would be callable. So when we say callable, preference share, this gives the issuing corporation. Wait. Sorry. Okay, so this gives the issuing corporation the right to reacquire or retire the share at a determinable call price. Ibig sabihin, for example, issue siya ng shares, no? So kung callable yung preference share na yon, si corporation na nag-issue ng shares na yon, they have the right na bibili nila babalik yung shares na yon, and at the same time, pwede lang i-retire. Okay, so kapag tatanggalin na nila sa libro, yun, i-retire na nila yung specific or babayaran nila yung shares na yon. Now, moving forward, so when we say redeemable naman, so on the other hand, redeemable naman, this must be retired or reacquired by issuing corporation then. Pero kung kanina, di ba, gives the right to reacquire si corporation. So dito naman sa redeemable, at the shareholder's option, at a determinable date. So dito sa redeemable preference shared, so kung natatandaan nyo, under yan nung sa liabilities natin kasi that's a type of a liability. Okay? Now, with regards to after preference share, so ang counterpart naman niya would be the ordinary share. So when we say ordinary share, they bear the ultimate risk of loss and receive benefits of the corporation success. So kaya siya tinawag na ordinary kasi siya yung ordinary shareholder na the risk and of losses and gains of benefits of gains, so sila yung nakakakuha nun. So under ng ordinary share, they have the rights to proportionate share in the P&L, rights to proportionate share in management or the voting right, as well as the right to proportionate share in the corporate assets upon liquidation of the said business or the entity. And then lastly, rights to proportionate share in any new issues of share capital of same class. So, ang term doon would be preemptive right. Okay? So, pag meron new issues na gagawin ng same class ng share capital, so una muna lang aalukin would be the ordinary shareholders since they have the preemptive right. So, sila yung parang priority with regards to the additional shares to be issued. Now, so now that we know the difference of the preference and then the ordinary shareholder, so with regards to our shareholders equity discussion, so basically the most of the questions there, how much is the authorized shareholders equity, how much is the pertaining to the issuance, so the outstanding treasury, so that we should know ano ba yung difference sa mga terms na to. So when we say authorized, these are the shares or maximum shares corporation can issue as per articles of incorporation. Ibig sabihin, as per AOI, ito lang yung limit ng shares na pwede nilang i-issue sa kanilang shareholders. So, any excess of that can be subject to illegality. Okay, so they can be non-compliant due to that excess. Now, for the second part, so under the share, so we have what we call issued. So when we say issued, these are fully paid shares issued to shareholders. So basically, these are your share capital. So when we say issued, so pag when we say issued, dalawa yung nakakatiyan sa dalawa. So when we say issued, this would be the outstanding and then the treasury. So when we say issued, outstanding or treasury yan. Kasi kapag tinanong magkano yung outstanding, pag tinanong yung outstanding, that would be issued less treasury. So outstanding are those shares issued and are still in the shareholders' hands. So nasa kamay ni shareholder kapag outstanding. Kasi di ba yung treasury nasa kamay na siya ni corporation kasi nire-acquire niya. Okay? So when we say treasury naman, so it is issued, but again, it is subsequently reacquired, though not yet retired. Kasi pag na-retire, parang dinispose na talaga. So when we say treasury kasi, in-issue mo siya kay shareholder, binili mo ulit kay shareholder, nasa libro mo pa siya as part ng owned shares ni corporation. Like kapag retired na, tatagalin na talaga na, i-retire na natin, babayarin na natin, paalis yung share na yon. Okay? And then, lastly would be subscribe. So when we say subscribe, these are the shares that are issued to investors that upon payment on a deferred payment purchase contract. So, nangyayari dyan, so for example, magsusubscribe ka, gusto mo magkaroon ng 50 shares. So, ang nangyari doon, hindi yung 50 shares binayaran mo agad, the down payment mo siya, and then saka ka lang mag-subsequent na payment through the deferred payment purchase contract. So, parang installment yung remainder. So, ganyan nangyayari kapag subscribe. Okay? So moving forward, let's proceed with issuance of share capital. So with this, same with what we've discussed before, like in the PPE, di ba? Pag bumibili tayo ng PPE, so hindi lang naman bili through cash yun. So madaming ways, di ba? para magkaroon ka ng PPE. So, with regards to share capital, may ganun din tayo. So, kapag nag-issue ka ng share capital, not necessarily cash yung ma-receive mo, pwedeng other securities or other than cash, etc., etc. So, when you say issuance of share capital, so basically, ang unang common dun would be for cash. So, you issue your capital or shares for cash. So, in that case, ang entry mo doon, debit, cash, credit, share capital, kung magkano man siya. Okay? Now, other than issuance of share capital through cash, so next naman natin would be issuance of share capital for consideration other than cash. Ibig sabihin, bukod sa cash, pwede kang pambayad mo service, property, etc., etc. So pag ganun yung scenario, may order of priority tayo na gagamitin as value with regards to the issuance of share capital. So sabi dan, unang priority natin, magkano ba yung fair value ng property or no services rendered? Okay? So kapag given yun yung magiging basis natin. So for example, sa book natin, so meron daw binili na land na ang ECP or equivalent cash price ay 12 million. So 12 million yung land. By issuing 100,000 shares of 100 so par. So 100, 100,000, so that would be 10 million. So 10 million yung par value ng OSC. Pero again, ang una mong priority nga would be the fair value of the property which is 12 million. So ang entry mo doon, debit, land, 12 million, credit, OSC, 10 million, and then the excess would be share premium. Now, ma'am, paano po pag wala po yung fair value ng property or services? So, dun ka na sa next priority, which is fair value of the share capital issued. So, in this example, sa books natin, page 70, say for example, actively traded at 130 pesos per share. So, therefore, 130 times 100,000 shares. So, ang gagamitin nating value would be 13 million. So, entry, debit, land, 13 million. Credit OSC, the par value pa din na 10 million, and then the excess of 3 million would be credited as premium. So, ganun yung nangyayari with regards to issuance of share capital other than cash payment. Okay? Now, next naman natin would be share capital sold on subscription. So, may mga tendency kasi no, na hindi nagkakaroon ng walang enough cash yung subscriber or yung gustong bumili ng shares natin. So, that's why they enter a deferred payment contract through or what we called subscription. So, with regards to subscription, page 71, so with regards to subscription, so meron tayong kino-compare dan. Say for example, yung subscription price, yun yung babayaran mo dun sa pinagbibilan mo ng shares, which is the issuing corporation. And then, syempre, kung may difference si subscription price tsaka si par, doon na papasok dun sa usapan si share premium. Say for example, yung subscription price natin higher than the par value. So kapag nag-entry ka doon, debit cash, yung down payment, debit si subscription receivable, yung remainder na receivable mo na lang, credit, subscribe capital at par, and then any excess would be share premium dash excess of subscription price over par. So, ganun yung nangyayari. So, pagkabaligtaran naman, ay hindi pala pagkabaligtaran, kuwari walang par, pero ang meron ay stated value. So, pag ganun yung scenario, and yung, same pa lang ikaw ng entry, pero yung credit mo sa share premium, excess over stated value, hindi na excess over subscription price. Okay? Ma'am, what if wala pong par? Wala pong stated. Paano po yung premium nun? So, pag ganun yung scenario, wala kang alam kung ano yung par or yung stated value. So, entry mo lang ulit yung debit cash, debit receivable, credit, yung subscribe or subscribe share capital natin, which is yung total subscription price niya. So, pag wala ka kasing alam na stated or par value, wala kang i-comparean. So, therefore, lahat ng excess would be considered as subscribe share capital natin. Now, hindi sa lahat ng panahon, no, magbabayad yung specific na nag-subscribe sa'yo. So, pag ganun yung scenario, di ba? Basically, yung subscription receivable mo, dapat pala, hindi na siya subscription receivable kung ganun yung scenario. So, before tayo mag-proceed dun with regards dun sa subscription receivable natin, so, again, pag default, no, sa problem may binigay na subscription receivable, pag walang sinabing other details, that would be deductions sa shareholders' equity. Pero pag may sinabi na, yun daw ay collectible within 12 months from the date of reporting period, therefore, yun ay current asset. Pero otherwise, deduction yun sa shareholders' equity, other words, contra shareholders' equity. Okay? Now, so kapag hindi makabayad yung nag-subscribe, so a corporation can resort to any of the following remedies when the subscriber defaults in payment of subscriptions due. So pag di na makabayad ng balanse, subscriber, pwedeng ang mangyari, mag-enforce ng collection si corporation from the defaulting subscriber, kumbaga pilitin niya. Pero kung wala naman, ang pwede niyang gawin, ibenta niya yung delinquent share. So yung mga hindi pa bayad fully paid, benta niya na lang yung mga shares na yun at a public auction to the highest bidder. So when we say highest bidder, it is a legal or natural person na willing mag-receive ng least or pinakaunting number ng shares, tapos babayaran niya lahat ng unpaid subscription, interest accrued, and all other costs related to the defaulted share. So when we say highest bidder, parang siya yung mayroong highest payment. 'Di ba? Paano mo masabi yung highest payment? Kapag willing siya mag-buy ng gantong amount, though pinakaunti yung shares na niya or in-auction niya or binibid niya. So pag highest bidder, highest yung babayaran niya, which is ibig sabihin, highest yung babayaran niya with the lowest number of shares. Okay? Okay, so proceed tayo sa page 72 rather, with regards to the subscription natin. So, say for example, ABC Corporation received a subscription from ACE for 1,000 shares of 100 par. Okay? ACE gave a 25% payment or down payment, and then yung balance daw would be payable in two equal annual installments. So 1,000 times 100, that will be 100,000. 25% ay down. So 75,000 na lang yung natitira. Kapag two equal installment, that would be 37,500. So moving forward, ABC offered the delinquent shares at a public auction and incurred 5,000 advertising cost. And then King bid for 800 shares, Queen for 700, and then Jack for 600. So again, if we are talking about the highest bidder, that would be the person who is willing to pay for the highest amount with the least number of shares. So discuss muna natin yung entry initially before the default. So debit cash, yung down payment na 25,000, debit subscription receivable na 75,000, and then credit si subscribe ordinary share capital, total amount of 100,000 pesos. Now, after the first installment payment, so entry mo lang debit cash, credit subscription receivable para yung pang one payment na lang yung matira. And then, sabi dito, if hindi na nakabayaran, mababayaran yung kalahati, paano yung gagawin natin? So, meron na nga tayong receivable from highest bidder, which is yung uh, pinakamaliit na shares, that would be si Jack. Okay, si Jack na yun. So, receivable from highest bidder would be 42,500 kasi yung value ng receivable na 37,500 plus yung 5,000 ng advertising cost during the auction. So, therefore, 42,500 yung debit to receivable mo kasi marireceive mo din sa kanya yung binayaran mo for the advertising. And then, credit subscription receivable yung balance na 37,500, and then credit cash dun sa payment niya na 5,000, which is yung advertising cost niya. Okay? So, pag ganun yung scenario, ang nangyari kasi doon sa in-entry natin, nilipat mo yung binayar na 5,000, kinedit na natin, pero yung subscription receivable, tinanggal mo na siya subscription receivable, pinalitan mo siya ng receivable from highest bidder. So, pag binayaran ka na ni highest bidder, entry mo na lang debit, cash, 42,500, credit, receivable from highest bidder, the same amount, 42,500 pesos. So, since bayad na ni receivable from ni highest bidder yung remainder na receivable mo, therefore pwede mo nang ilipat yung subscribe ordinary share capital to ordinary share capital. So entry ka ngayon debit si subscribe ordinary share capital, and then i-credit mo na siya as ordinary share capital na normal. Okay? So ganun yung scenario natin. Now, ma'am, paano po pag wala pong bidder, walang may gustong bumili? Eh di kawawa ka naman. So, pag walang bumili, paano yung pwedeng gawin doon? So, sabi dito, when there is no bidder for the delinquent share, si corporation, pwede siyang mag-bid on his behalf. Okay? May bid for the shares and shall issue them in the corporation's name. So, kung ganun yung scenario, ikaw na lang yung bibili, magiging treasury mo siya. So, kung ganun yung scenario, 42,500 yung receivable kasi yung 5,000 plus yung 37,500. So, debit, treasury share, 42,500 credit receivable from highest bidder, 42,500. And then, pwede mo nang ilipat yung entry mo, debit, subscribe share, ordinary share capital, credit, ordinary share capital, 100,000. Take note ha, yung ordinary share capital mo, 100,000. Pero pag tinanong yung shareholders equity mo, net pa rin naman yung treasury share na 42,500. So, just take note of that. So, basta aware tayo dun sa entries natin. Okay? So, after nung unsubscription natin with regards to issuance of share capital, proceed naman tayo sa issuance of share capital with other securities. Say for example, page 73 natin. So when a corporation issues a two or more classes of equity securities for a single payment, so yung mga discussion natin before, like lump sum yung payment niya, it shall allocate the lump sum price based on their relative fair value or RFV. Okay? So, ang tawag doon, proportional method. So, si lump sum price are then allocated based on the relative fair value. So, say for example, page 73 ng book natin. So, suppose si XYZ, meron siyang lump sum price of 178 and then sabi doon para daw yun sa 1,000 na ordinary share na may par na 100 and then 500 preference share na may par na 50. So on the date of issuance, XYZ ordinary share we're selling at 135. So that would be the fair value and the preference share we're selling at 90. So binigay sa atin yung relative fair value in that will be used that we will be using in the allocation of the lump sum price. Okay? So therefore, 1,000 shares times the fair value of 135 and the 500 times the fair value of 90. So meron kang 135 tsaka 45 over 180 na fair value. So you'll use that ratio and multiplying that to 178,000 na lump sum price to know magkano yung sa lump sum pertaining sa ordinary and then sa preference. So therefore, pwede ka na mag-entry debit cash yung buong 178,000 kasi yun yung ma-receive mo. And then credit si ordinary share capital, yung at par na 100, excess should be share premium ordinary. So say for example, nung nag-allocate ka, yung lump sum na 178, 133,500 para daw sa ordinary share. Eh, ang par mo 100 lang. So yung 33,500 would be your share premium. Same process with the preference. So credit preference share, 25,000 credit share premium preference, 19,500 pesos. Okay? So pag may scenario naman daw na hindi given yung relative fair values ng lahat, pwede mong gawin naman hindi proportional method, kundi yung residual method. So, ang gawin mo, lahat ng available na fair value, gamitin mo to compute for their relative fair values, and then the remainder, the residual, will be the value of the securities or the shares that are not known kung ano ba yung fair value. So, yun yung residual method natin. Okay? Okay. I think we're good with that. So, proceed muna tayo before tayo mag-proceed sa share issue cost. So, sa slide ko, inuna ko muna yung treasury shares. Okay? Mhm. So, treasury share muna tayo. Ay, sorry. Meron pa pala tayo na iwang isa. So, ayan. So, may naiwan pala tayo, reacquired for immediate retirement. So, may mga scenario kasi, di ba, na meron tayong mga shares na binibili or nire-reacquire for immediate retirement. Ibig sabihin, i-retire mo din, babayaran mo din. Okay? So, anong gagawin pag may ganon? So, proceed tayo sa page 75. So, page 75 tayo. Shares reacquired for immediate retirement. So, sabi dito, if shares are reacquired and then retired, the share capital account is debited equal to the par of the shares retired. And the share premium is debited equivalent to the amount of the credit at the date of the shares were originally issued. So, ang nangyari, pag mag-retire ka, kung ano yung initial mong na-entry before, kailangan mo siyang i-recognize. Now, kung ganun yung scenario, ma'am, paano po yun? Paano pag yung original issue price, hindi sila the same with the retirement price? Ibig sabihin, kung na-issue mo siya at gantong amount before, nung babayaran mo na siya, dun sa pinaka-shareholder, iba na yung value niya. Kumbaga, pwedeng mas malaki or mas mababa. So, paano yung treatment kapag ganon? So, sabi dito, so if the retirement price is greater than the original issue price, pag sinabi kasing retirement price, ayun yung ilalabas na pera mo para ma-retire yung share. So, kung mas malaki yung retirement price dun sa original issue price, yung i-credit mo na cash, mas malaki dun sa i-debit mo. Diba? So, paano yung ngayon yung debit natin? So, sa debit natin, magkakaroon ka ng adjustment doon. So, meron ka additional debit for the share premium from previous retirement or treasury share transactions of the same class of stock. So, ganun yung mangyayari. Kailangan mo magbawas sa APIC or sa share premium. Okay? Sa other share premium na related dun sa shares na ni-retire, na i-retire. Now, paano pag ma'am, yung excess ng retirement price masyadong malaki compared dun sa existing na share premium na pwedeng bawasan. So pag ganun yung scenario, any excess nung sa share premium na nababawasan mo would be debit na sa RE, sa retained earnings. Kung on the other hand, baliktad naman, kumbaga mas malaki yung original issue price compared dun sa retirement price, ibig sabihin mas maliit yung binayaran mo nung ni-retire mo yung share. So maganda yon. Pag ganun yung scenario, ang magiging treatment mo naman doon ay credit sa share premium or sa APIC, additional paid in capital. Kasi parang hindi mo siya gain kasi wala namang gain kapag shares ang pinag-uusapan eh. Premium lang yung magiging treatment natin doon. Okay? So kaya dito sa page 76, pag nakita nyo, meron yan dan na sa letter A, di ba? Nung mas malaki yung original issue price compared sa retirement price, nagkaroon pa nga siya ng credit na share premium retirement. Okay? Pagbaliktad naman, so debit lang sa share premium, ubusin mo lang yun. Pag may natira pang kailangan mong i-debit, debit mo yun sa retained earning. So, ganun yung nasa page 76. Lagi nyo natatandaan, pag sinanabing retirement, ayun yung ilalabas mong pera para ma-retire yung shares na yun. So, pag mas malaki yung lalabas mong pera, ibig sabihin is parang mas napamahal ka. So, hindi, debit siya na loss. Okay, debit siya na loss, pero ang babawasan mo, share premium. And then, pag naubos yung share premium, retained earnings naman. Pagbaliktad, mas mura yung bayad mo ng retirement, edi credit yun sa share premium pertaining to retirement. Okay? So, ganun yung nangyayari sa atin kapag reacquisition for immediate retirement. Now, so proceed naman tayo sa next slide ko, which is si treasury shares. So, sa treasury shares natin, proceed tayo sa page 76. Okay, so sa treasury shares naman natin, so si treasury shares, so ito yung own shares, corporation own shares which have been issued but reacquired and not yet issued or canceled. So ayun na nga yung na-mention ko kanina na binibili mo yung shares mo uli. So inisyo mo na siya to shareholder A, for example, pero bibilin mo siya uli, no? Para maging part ng treasury shares mo. Okay? Pero hindi mo pa siya nare-retire, binili mo lang siya, hindi mo pa siya natatanggal sa libro mo or binabayaran pa pabalik. Okay? So, kapag treasury share ang pinag-uusapan natin, again, we have issued, hati sa dalawa, outstanding tsaka si treasury share. So, therefore, kapag meron kang treasury shares siya ni corporation, therefore, hindi siya entitled to dividends. Okay? And then, yun nga yung na-mention ko, kapag may treasury share, it decreases the shares outstanding. Kasi, issued less treasury ay outstanding. So, kapag lumaki yung treasury share mo, so liliit yung outstanding mo. Okay? And share but not the issued. So, yun nga. Si treasury share, nababawasan niya si share, tsaka si shares outstanding, pero yung issued, hindi niya nababawasan. Kasi nga, di ba, pag issued, dalawa yun. Outstanding tsaka treasury. So, pag maglipat man sila sa parehas, yung issued mo, hindi magbabago. Dalawa pa rin yung pinagmulan niya, which is si treasury tsaka yung outstanding natin. So, under Corporation Code, RE should be appropriated for the cost of treasury share. So, kapag ikaw ay magkakaroon ng own shares, bibili ka ng treasury share, pag ganun yung scenario, required po sa corporation code natin na kailangan merong i-appropriate na retained earnings in equivalent dun sa treasury shares mo. So sa page 77, may mention nga din na limitation. So as per corporation, can reacquire or repurchase treasury shares when it has unrestricted retained earnings. So kailangan may unrestricted retained earnings ka na enough para mag-equal dun sa cost of the shares or treasury shares na bibilin mo. So, hindi pwede na yung unappropriated retained earnings mo ay masyado maliit para ma-cover yung treasury shares. Hindi pwede yun. So, kailangan it's either equal or mas malaki yung retained earnings mo dun sa cost of treasury shares. Kasi nga, kailangan mo mag-appropriate pertaining to the treasury shares. Now, when we say treasury shares, so dalawa yung yung pwedeng panggalingan. So, una, pwedeng bilhin mo talaga siya, and pangalawa naman, dinonate sa'yo. So, kapag binili mo yung treasury share, so ibig sabihin, pag sinabi kasi doon, cost method yun. Kung magkano yung binili mo, doon yung magiging value ng treasury shares mo. So, pag bumili ka ng treasury shares, so debit, treasury shares, credit, cash, kapag babayaran mo na nga siya, Pero ito yung catch. So when we say treasury share kasi, hindi naman forever na treasury share mo yan. Pwedeng i-reissue mo siya sa shareholder mo talaga. So pag nire-issue mo siya, hindi na siya part ng treasury pag na-reissue mo na siya. So proceed tayo sa page 77. Say for example, nag-reacquire ka ng treasury shares. So debit treasury 150, credit cash 150,000. Now, sa 1,000 na shares daw na binili mo. So 1,000 kasi yung total noon. Na 100 yung part, tsaka 150 na mo ni-reacquire. So pag ganun yung scenario, kung ni-reacquire mo yung treasury shares ng at 150 pesos. So, ibig sabihin, 150 pesos yung cost ng treasury share. So, kaya debit treasury, credit cash, 150,000 pesos. Now, ang nangyari dito, hati kasi yung treatment sa kanya. So, 400 daw nung shares na treasury natin na yun, binenta mo na kay shareholder at 160. So, take note of that. So, 160 mo daw siya binenta. Ibig sabihin, binili mo siya at 150, nabenta mo siya at 160. So therefore, kung nabenta mo siya at 160, parang gain mo yon. Pero since we're talking about shares, so ang credit mo hindi gain kundi share premium. Kaya dito sa entry mo sa page 177 or 77, debit cash yung 100 ay yung 400 times yung na-receive mo na 160 kasi 160 mo nga siya binenta uli. So, debit cash 64,000 and then credit treasury share yung 150 times yung 400. So that would be 60,000 and then the excess would be considered as share premium dash treasury shares. So kung kabaligtaran naman, yun yung sumunod na part, pag 600 shares naman, pero binenta mo siya at a lower price dun sa reacquisition mo. Ibig sabihin, binili mo ng 150 kay shareholder, tas i-issue mo sa kanila at a lower price pa nga ng 140. So in that case, nagkaroon ka ng loss, pero again, na-mention nga natin, pag merong loss, hindi yun loss talaga. Kailangan mo nang ubusin yung related na APIC, saka mo magiging RE. So in this case, 140 times 600. So ang ma-receive daw ay 84,000. So debit yon. Debit share premium treasury share. So yan yung 4,000, di ba? Kasi meron ka na initially na na-record na share premium na 4,000. And then may retained earnings ka na debit 2,000. Bakit? Kasi yung treasury share, 90,000, di ba? 90,000 yung value niya. Pero, ang nangyari, nung binenta mo siya, ang na-receive mo lang 84,000. So, lugi ka ng 6,000. Pero yung 6,000 na yun, binawas mo na siya kay share premium. Now, yung 2,000 na excess, yun na yung naging debit kay retained earnings. So, ganun yung nangyayari kapag merong re-issuance ng treasury shares natin. Okay? Now, so we're done with purchase method and with regards to reacquisition as well and or reissuance. So proceed naman tayo sa treasury shares pa rin pero donated. So when we say donated treasury shares, so ibig sabihin hindi mo binili kundi dinonate lang sa company yung shares na iyon. Now, dalawa yung treatment dan. So pag walang fair value at the date of donation, memo entry ka lang. Okay? Pag walang fair value at the date of donation ng treasury share, memo entry ka lang na sabihin mo lang doon, 1,000 pesos, 1,000 shares of 100 par were received as donation from various shareholders. So, ganun lang yung entry mo doon. Pag walang fair value. Now, kailan siya magkakaroon ng fair value? So, kapag nire-issue mo na yung treasury share na yun. So, pwede ka na makareceive ka na ng cash ng debit, cash, credit, donated, capital, kung magkano man yung naging, ano natin. Okay? So, ganun yung scenario niya. Debit cash, 130,000. Credit donated capital, 130,000 pesos. Now, so another one natin, page 78. Ma'am, paano po pag meron naman pong market value? So, pag may market value, yung fair value given at the date of donation, yun na yung gagamitin mong value. Kaya entry ka debit, treasury share, which is the book natin, 120 pesos times 1,000. So, therefore, debit, treasury share, 120,000. And then credit, donated capital, 120,000 pesos. So, donated capital, ang other term sa kanya ay share premium, ha? Pag sinabing donated capital. Now, ma'am, paano pag nagkaroon na ng reissuance, i-reissue na natin yung treasury share, no, paano yung mangyayari dun, ma'am? Eh, di makaka-receive ka na naman ng cash. So, debit cash, kung magkano naman, 130,000. And then, credit, treasury share, yung initial mong value ng 120. And then, yung excess nun would be share premium or donated capital. So, ganun yung entry natin if ever man na meron donated treasury share to be reacquired or reissued. Okay? Now, so before we proceed with the share issue cost, proceed muna tayo sa last part which is dito sa conversion, no? Conversion ng preference to ordinary shares. So, anong nangyari kasi ng conversion of preference to ordinary shares? Ibig sabihin, initially sa libro mo, preference share mo siya. So, meron kang capital and then premium pertaining to preference. Now, if you convert that preference to ordinary, kailangan na natin either recognize yung previous na preference and then mag-recognize na tayo ng ordinary. Now, with regards to competition, ma'am, paano po yung gagawin natin doon? So, pag ganun yung scenario, no, pag magko-compute tayo, tingnan mo yung original issue price ng preference. Now, pag mas malaki yung ordinary or yung original issue ones price, no, nung preference na i-convert mo sa shareholder, so yung difference nung original issue 1 sa stated value niya would be credited to premium. Kasi di ba, i-debit mo yung preference, yung i-recognize mo na siya. So pag mas malaki yung i-recognize mo ng debit, therefore, credit ka dun sa value ng ordinary and then another credit for the excess ni issue price, issuance price kay stated outstanding value. So kaya credit ka dun sa premium pag mas malaki yung issuance price originally compared dun sa naging value niya nung kinonvert siya. Okay? Now, kapag kabaligtaran naman, kumbaga, yung original issue price mo, for example, 100 pesos lang, tapos yung stated value na 200 na. So, kapag ganun yung nangyari, originally 100 mo lang siya originally na issue, pero nung yung value niya na ay 200, therefore, debit ka nung preference, debit ka din ng RE, hindi talagang credit, mali yan. Debit dapat yan. So, debit ka ng RE, and then credit si stated value natin. So, ganun yung mangyayari kapag conversion of preference to ordinary shareholders. So, hindi ko na siya masyado expound kasi madali na naman siya, no? Kailangan mo lang i-compare yung mga figures natin. So, other than that, so, proceed tayo. So, just to reiterate to everyone, so we also have what we call share issue cost. So, if you look sa book natin, page 74, so share issue cost, ayan, so yun yung mga ginagastos no, na related sa issuances natin. So, by default, no, kapag sinabing share issue cost, they are deducted to additional paid-in capital from related issuance. Okay? So, pag wala ka ng APIC na babawasan or ubus na, doon na papasok yung i-expense mo na yung share issue cost. Pero, if meron namang i-offsetan, bawas siya sa APIC, hindi siya i-expense. Okay? So, sa page 74, nagbigay din sila ng mga example ng mga items that can be considered as share issue cost and then those not are recognized as expense as profit or loss. So you can read into that page 74 na lang kung ano yung mga example ng share issue costs and what are those not considered as issue costs and then should be outright expense. So basahin nyo na lang yun sa page 74. Now, after that, we have what we call share rights. Okay? We have rights, warrants, and split. So, when you say share rights, so a corporation issues stock rights or share rights to existing shareholders, entitling them to maintain a proportionate interest in the ownership of the corporation when new shares are to be issued. So, when we say share rights to ni shareholder na magbumili ng additional nilang shares. Okay? Pag meron silang receive na rights, wala silang GNJE doon. Ang meron lang ay memo entry. Issuance ng share rights at the same time yung expiry din nun. So lahat yun ay memo entry lang. Okay? Now, so when we say share warrants naman, so when we say share warrants naman, ang nangyari naman dito, you have to entry the value of the share warrants based on the residual approach. If you can still remember nung nag-discuss tayo sa liability before, di ba pag merong warrants doon, you have to compute, di ba, kung magkano yung value ng warrant. Kasi anong nangyayari, with warrants minus without the warrant, residual value would be considered as the value of the share warrant. Okay? So, yung nagka-credit ka ng share premium, ordinary share warrants outstanding, tapos kapag ginamit na nila, so de-debit mo na yung share, yung ano na yun, warrants outstanding. And then, magiging part na yun ng normal computation mo ng issuance. Okay? So, you look into that. Di naman siya ganun kakomplikado kasi again, review lang yun ng corporation natin. Okay, so now, so last na lang din, also mention na lang na din natin yung share split. So pag may share split, memo entry lang yan kasi wala siyang effect sa total value. Ang nangyayari lang doon, pwedeng dagdag sa number of shares, bawas sa unit price, or kabaligtaran, dagdag sa unit price, bawas sa number of shares. Okay? So yun siya. Tawag that ay share split or reverse share split. Okay? So proceed tayo sa next natin, which is si share-based payment. So ito yung tinago dun sa book natin kasi hindi siya covered ng finals natin. So when we say share-based payment, nangyayari kasi dito, this is one on which entity receives goods or and services or equity instruments or incurs liability for amount based on share prices or other equity instrument of entity. So anong nangyayari kasi dito, yung sa mga na-mention ko before, say for example, you are an executive of a certain enterprise and then you render services to the company, so you are then entitled to receive share options, share appreciation rights, and any alternative related to that. So sa share-based payment, nahati yan sa tatlo. We have the equity settled, cash settled, and then equity and cash settled. So when we say equity settled, ibig sabihin equity talaga yung babayaran mo. Under ng equity settled are those share options na merong condition. So discuss natin ano ba yung mga conditions na yun moving forward. And the number two will be the cash settled. So under naman ito would be the share appreciation rights. And then lastly, equity and cash settled. So it's like the hybrid of the first two, which is a share-based transaction with a cash alternative. So ayan yun, under PFRS 2. Okay? So share-based payment, di naman siya mahirap. Kailangan mo lang tandaan yung concept natin. So when we say yung share-based payment natin, tatlo nga yun, equity, cash, and both. Okay? So when we say equity settled, kailangan lang natin tandaan kino ba nanggaling yung goods and services na susuklian natin ng equity payment. So, kapag other than employee and others, so other than employees and others, ibig sabihin hindi siya empleyado ng company, ang magiging measurement natin ng share option na yan would be the fair value of the goods and services. Okay? Yun ay kapag hindi empleyado. Kasi pag empleyado na, ang measurement mo na ng equity settled na share options natin would the fair value of the equity at grant date. So, ganun yung nangyayari din. Fair value of equity at grant date. Okay? So, moving forward, proceed naman tayo sa next natin, which is si cash settled. So when we say cash settled naman, so sabi dito, kahit kayo pa galing yung goods and services, wala tayong pakidan, regardless ng kung ano man yung, sino man ng pinanggalingan ng goods and services, ang measurement mo lang dan, fair value, na nagbabago each reporting date. So kung yung sa equity settled kanina, kapag empleyado at grant date lang, and then yung pag other than employees, yun naman ay fair value of goods and services. Pag cash settled naman, ang magiging valuation natin, fair value at each reporting date. Ibig sabihin, we have to revalue or adjust the value of the SAR or share appreciation rights every reporting period. Okay? Okay. So proceed tayo sa next natin, which is si equity and cash settled naman. So pag equity and cash settled, so under nga nito yung share-based transactions with cash alternative. So kapag hybrid sila, ganun pa rin naman, regardless, no, kung sino ba yung nagbigay ng goods and services na susuklian mo ng share payment. Pero regardless, ang treatment natin ay kapag equity component yung pinag-uusapan, dapat ang value nun ay at grant date kasi nga as per dito, 'di ba? Kapag equity at grant date and then kapag cash component naman, which is under SAR, ang magiging value mo naman doon ay fair value at each reporting date. Ibig sabihin, sa equity component, hindi moving yung value niya, pero yung cash component natin moving based dun sa reporting date na fair value. Okay? Okay, so moving forward, proceed na tayo. So alam na natin yung valuation ng equity, cash, saka yung hybrid natin na transaction. So proceed naman tayo dun sa mga conditions. So na-mention ko nga kanina when we say yung transaction ng share-based payment, meron silang tinatawag na nating vesting condition. So before we proceed, so also remember, generally, lahat ng share-based payment transaction are recognized in the financial statement at fair value. Okay, kaya pag nakita mo, fair value yung mga measurement natin then with expense or asset debited when services or goods are received. Now, moving forward, so when we say share-based payment, hindi lang naman yun, okay, entitled ka sa ganito, walang requirement. So, minsan meron tayong tinatawag na vesting condition. So, when we say vesting condition, this is the condition that determines ng entitlement of the counterparty to receive asset in exchange of goods and services under share-based arrangement. Ibig sabihin, ito yung condition that renders the entitlement of the certain employee or other than the employees to receive the share-based payment. Okay? So, yun yung vesting condition natin. Now, when we say vesting condition, it can be vesting period, ibig sabihin more than 1 year or may specific period, or vest immediately. So, kailan nagiging vest immediately yung vesting condition natin? So, nagiging vest immediately if yung basis nung condition is past employee service. Say, for example, basta nagro-work ka dito, you are entitled to this. In that case, vest immediately yun kasi wala lang future ikaw inaantay kasi nag-work ka na naman talaga doon. So, vest immediately yon, therefore, full recognition of expense yung pertaining dun sa share-based payment natin. Now, on the other hand, we have what we call naman na vesting period. So, pag vesting period naman, meron ditong tinatawag na service or performance condition, and then may market or non-market. Okay? So, when you say service and performance, ibig sabihin, yung condition nakabase sa service ng empleyado. And then, yung isa naman ay performance. Ibig sabihin, nakabase sa performance ng entity or kung ano man yung magiging condition nila dun sa specific na problem. Now, with regards to conditions of this, meron tayong market or non-market. Kapag market yung performance condition, ibig sabihin pertaining sa outside no ng company, hindi siya internal. So, pag market yung condition niya, irrespective or regardless kung ma-meet yung condition na yun, pasok pa rin yun na entitlement pa rin. Kapag on the other hand naman, kapag non-market, kailangan ma-meet talaga. Kasi pag sa non-market, yung goal nan or yung condition ay internally. So pag di siya na-meet, therefore, hindi kailangan kung meron ka mang na-record na accrual, kailangan mo siya i-reverse. Kasi pag non-market, kailangan ma-achieve talaga yung condition para maging entitled dun sa specific na share-based payment. Okay? So pag may vesting period tayo or specific na condition, so yung expense naman pertaining dito sa share-based payment na to would be expense for a period of time equally with adjustment at each accounting date to reflect the best estimate of number that will vests. Okay? So number of that will vest. Yung vest, yun yung ibig sabihin magiging entitled or mag-actual, no? Yung term na vest, no? So moving forward, so proceed tayo sa tatlo nating example with regards to equity and then si cash and then yung hybrid. No. So proceed muna tayo sa equity. So with regards to equity settled, so sabi ko nga kanina, example nito ay share option. So dito sa book natin or sa slide ko, dalawa yung ano niya, yung example. So yung una, vesting service condition. Yung pangalawa naman, performance condition pero market. Okay? Market condition. So, moving forward, proceed tayo mag-annotate ako. Kaya ba mag-annotate? Okay. So, annotate tayo. So una muna natin service condition. So, on January 1, 2023, Legacy grants 40 share options to each of its 200 employees. So, 200 yung empleyado, 40 yung share option per employee. So, each grant is subject to the condition na yung employees daw dapat mag-work for another 2 years. So, another 2 years dapat mag-stay sila para mag-vest yung entitlement nila dun sa share option na yon. So Legacy estimates that out of the 200 employees, 80% will fulfill the condition to stay for 2 years. So during 2023, 20 employees left, and Legacy still estimated that 20% of the original employees will leave over the 2-year period. So 20 daw yung umalis, pero nagre-remain pa rin daw na 20% based sa original would be leaving the company. So, sabihin, yung 20 na yan, kasama na yan dun sa 20%. Okay, so during 2024, another 30 employees left before the maturity date. So the fair value of each option is estimated to be 20 pesos at the grant date. So binigay yung fair value at the grant date, which is yun naman yung concern natin kasi ito ay empleyado yung pinag-uusapan natin. Ay pag empleyado, equity settled, di ba? Fair value at the date of grant yung gagamitin natin. Now, ang ginagawa kasi natin dito, kailangan nating malaman yung i-expense natin for the period. Kasi yung share option na yan, part yan ng compensation. Okay? So yung share option na yun, hindi mo siya i-share option at the second year. Kailangan mo siyang hatiin over the period nung vesting period. So therefore, pag mag-compute tayo ng compensation expense, so tingnan muna natin kung paano siya kinakompute. So sa 200 na employees, as of 2023 yung kinakompute muna natin ha. Sabi daw noong 2023 ay 80% daw yung magiging entitled. So, nangyari, so 200 times 80%, so that will be 160 times 40 per employee. So, 64 yung options granted times 20 na fair value at grant date. Therefore, 128 yung fair value ng stock options expected to vest for the 2 years. Pero since ang kinocompute natin ay spread out natin siya over the term, so ang pag tinanong yung compensation expense ng 2023, divide mo na lang siya sa 2 para makuha mo kung magkano yung for the first year natin na compensation expense. Okay? Now, sa second year, 2024, meron ka na ng bagong data na may 30 na umalis, tsaka yung actual na umalis ng prior year na 20. So therefore, pag magkakompute ka, 200 na employees minus 20 na initial na umalis, minus 30 na sumunod na umalis, therefore 150 na lang yung natira, times 40 shares, share options, so therefore total of 6,000 share options times 20 na fair value at grant date, therefore 120 na lang dapat yung fair value of stock options expected to vest sa 2 years na yon. So 120 daw yun, pero yung last year nag-recognize ka na ng compensation expense sa 64, therefore pag nagtanong magkano yung comp expense ng 2024, bawas mo muna yung na-recognize mo last year na 64. Therefore, 56,000 yung compensation expense natin for year 2024. So yung 64 mo dyan, tsaka 56, entry mo lang siya dito, debit comp expense, credit, share premium, dash share option. So, ganun yung mangyayari sa kanya. Kapag vesting service condition. Now, second example naman natin, what if market performance? So sabi ko pag market, regardless, di ba? Regardless kung ma-meet or hindi, magiging expected to vest pa rin. Therefore, so the following information are available for the share options that Saga Company granted to its senior executives on January 1, 2023. Share options 500, walang service condition, pero exercise date niya within the year lang, December 31, 2023. And then ang vesting condition niya, dapat daw yung credit rating ni Saga from BB to BB plus ng year 2023. Okay, so yung credit rating nila, hindi nakabase dun sa performance ni Saga, nakabase yan dun sa market na ano ba yung basis ng credit ratings na levels natin. So therefore, mas ma-meet man to or hindi, wala tayong pake. So ang kakompute mo dan, walang further vesting condition. So 500 shares lang, multiply ng fair value at options grant date na 100. Therefore, ang debit mo na ay comp expense, credit share, premium share options, 50,000 pesos. Okay? So, ganun yung mangyayari kapag equity settled. So, next naman natin, equity settled pa rin, pero ang magiging ano naman natin dito ay non-market. Kanina kasi market performance, 'di ba? So, ito naman, non-market performance na sinabi ko pag non-market, dapat ay ma-meet, 'di ba? Kapag non-market, dapat ma-meet siya. So the following information are available for the share options that Mirodin Enterprise granted to its managerial employees on January 1, 2023. So 20 options granted, 100 na managerial yung entitled. Service condition over the vesting period, dapat mag-remain sila sa company. And then ang vesting date daw ay 24 tsaka 2023. So isabihin 2 years. And then ang performance condition niya is 10% dapat yung increase ng earnings sa first year. And then year 2024, dapat average of 8% at least for 2 years yung ano niya, yung increase. Okay? And then, ano pang sinabi doon? Options at the grant date, fair value 25, ordinary share par 35 pesos, option price 50 per share. Ganun yung nangyari sa atin. Now, ano yung mga other data regarding dun sa problem natin? So, noong 2023, may naging increase sa earnings pero hindi 10, 9% lang. And then 2024, naging 10%. So, pag kainan nyo, yung first year, hindi nyo na-meet yung 10%. Pero tingnan natin yung 2024 kung na-meet niya. So, 10 plus 9 would be 19% divided by 2. That would be 9.5. So 9.5% yung increase niya over the 2 years. So na-meet niya yung sinabi dito na dapat at least 8%. So therefore, wala tayong i-reverse na compensation expense. So, yung 99.5 na-meet naman niya. So, pwede tayong mag-compute. Now, proceed muna tayo sa first year 2023. So, tingnan muna natin magkano ba yung dapat comp expense ng first year. So, sabi dito, ang magiging entitled daw ay 100. So, 100 yung initial mo. Pero, year 2023, dapat tingnan mo ilan ba yung expected na hindi naaalis. So therefore, sabi dan, may actual na nag-resign na 15 and then as of 2023, may expected ka na resignation na 10. So 100 minus 15 minus 10, so 75 yon times 20 options per employee. So meron kang 1.5 times 25 na fair value over 2 na vesting period. So 18,750 yung first year natin. So entry mo lang siya, debit, comp expense, credit share premium, 18,750. So moving forward, so ganun pa rin naman, 100 minus yung umalis actual last year and then meron ka ng actual na umalis talaga nung 2024 na 8. So 77 times 20, total options granted 1,540 times fair value na 25. Therefore, may 38,500 minus yung na-record mo na last year. Therefore, meron ka na lang 19,750 na for adjustment ng year 2024. Now, anong sabi dito? The related expense and liability are still recognized in 2023 as there is an estimated as of this date that the performance condition will be met in 2024. So, hindi mo man siya na-meet in 2023, may expectation ka na, mamimit niya yung 2024. Kaya hindi tayo nag-reverse. Now, if daw hindi talaga na-meet yung both ng sinabi dito or hindi niya na-meet yung 8% at least over the 2 years, ang gagawin mo daw dun dapat ay it shall be reversed in 2024 and will be treated as a change in accounting estimate. So kung ano man yung naging entry mo dito, kailangan mo siya i-reverse kapag hindi na-meet. Kasi nga, hindi na-meet eh. Eh, non-market yan. Kailangan ma-meet para magpatuloy yung pagre-recognize. Now, assuming lahat ng options na ilan na ba yun? 38,500, no? Ay na-exercise ng the following year. So, 38,500 yung value over 25. So, 1,540. No? 1,540 yung bilang. So, 1,540 times 50 pesos na option price. So, naka-receive nga ng 77,000 nung in-exercise yung option. Dinebit yung ano natin, yung option natin na 38,500 in total dito. So, debit mo lang yun, credit mo lang yung at par, and then any excess would be share premium. Okay? So, on the other hand, what if kalahati lang yung naging exercise? So, ganun pa rin. So, 1,540 over 2, so 770 times 50. Yung share option mo, buo pa rin, 38,500. And then, ang credit mo ngayon dyan, yung ordinary, yung premium, tapos yung hindi nagamit would be an exercise option na share premium din naman. Okay? Ganun yung nangyayari sa kanya. So, proceed tayo sa next natin, cash settled. Sa cash settled, na-mention natin kanina, ito ay fair value at each reporting date. Ibig sabihin, magbabago yung value niya every after the reporting period. So, before pa tayo mag-proceed sa cash settled, I forgot to mention, so hindi kasi sa lahat ng panahon binibigay yung fair value at grant date. So, pag hindi binigay yung fair value at grant date, doon na papasok yung intrinsic value. So, ano po ma'am yung intrinsic value? So, yung intrinsic value, magko-compute ka, magkano yung as if na fair value niya. So, therefore, paano computein yun, ma'am? Computein mo lang yun by measuring the fair value, less exercise, or strike price. And then, adjusted tail options are exercise. Ibig sabihin, kailangan mong baguhin yung value nun until ma-exercise nyo yung mga option. Basta babaguhin mo siya ng babaguhin kapag intrinsic value under equity settled. Kasi di ba kapag equity settled, dapat fair value at grant date. Eh kung walang fair value at grant date, gamitin mo intrinsic na nagbabago-bago yung value. Therefore, until ma-exercise yung option na yun, magbabago-bago yung value niya kahit equity settled siya. Kasi nga, walang fair value granted at grant date. Ang meron lang ay intrinsic value. So, take note of that. Though hindi naman siya kasama sa finals, no? Kailangan lang natin siya malaman. And then sa cash settled, so na-mention ko kanina, at fair value at each reporting date, therefore nagbabago-bago siya. Okay? So anong nangyari dito? So sabi dito, share appreciation rights, no? So grant date, January 1, 2023, entitled 202 years yung vesting, and then ang condition niya dapat daw ay increase of the independent value ng kada 20 shares na mag-above ng 50 pesos. And then employee benefits are then paid in cash. Additional details, 90% will be in service on the vesting date ng first year. Second year, ang actual daw talaga na natanggal or natira ay 180. And then ito yung mga independent stock value niya. So sabi ko nga at each reporting date, kailangan nating i-value, di ba? Kasi nga, ito ay cash settled. So therefore, 200 employees times 90% na estimated mo ng first year na matitira lang, times 20 shares, and then times 8 pesos kasi 58 yung stock valuation niya ay sabi above 50, so 8 pesos yun. Over 2, sabihin na ito yung entry natin. Debit comp expense, credit SAR, payable. So next year, ganun pa rin, 180 na lang yung natira talaga actual, so 180 na yung gagamitin mo. Times 20 na shares, times 13 pesos kasi 50, minus mo kay 63. So 13 yon. And then minus mo na yung na-recognize mo last year na 14,400, therefore meron kang 32,400 na credit. Now, assuming right after nung vesting period matapos ay nagkaroon ka na ng exercise ng share appreciation right. So, pag-exercise mo lang yun, di-credit mo lang yung ni-record mo na 46,800 credit si cash kasi nga in-exercise mo na. In-exercise na nila. So, sabihin, babayaran mo na yung pinagkakautangan mo ng share appreciation rights. Okay, so which is for itong 46,800. Now, if hindi pa to ma'am, pag hindi pa to nangyari, wala pang naging after vesting date, wala pa naging exercising, so yung expense tsaka liability, which is itong dalawang na to, yung dalawang yan ay continuously mo dapat siya i-adjust at each reporting date at fair value. Kasi nga at fair value at each reporting date yung computation natin. Okay? So, ganun siya kapag SAR. Now, so next naman tayo, equity and cash settled. Hybrid to ng equity tsaka cash natin. Okay? So, share-based transaction with cash alternative. So, anong nangyari dito? Ang recipient si President. So, kaya special yung case sa kanya na, ikaw Pres, anong gusto mo ba? Share or cash? So, yan siya. President, service condition 2 years, and then ang option niya, it's either 900 shares o kaya cash ka babayaran, Pres, pero 800 lang na value. Okay? Or shares lang. So, fair value of share alternative at the grant date, 50 pesos. And then par value per share ay 35 and then fair value per share, so nagbabago per year. Bakit binigay ito? Kasi nga hybrid to eh. So at fair value yung gagamitin mo sa equity pero yung cash component moving. So bifurcate or hatiin natin yung fair value para malaman yung equity component. So fair value ng equity alternative, sabi share alternative ay 50 pesos. So 50 times 900, ang value niya 45,000. Now, magkano naman yung fair value of the debt alternative? So yung fair value ng debt alternative, so yung 800 naman natin na shares, no, na ito, na pang cash alternative natin, multiply mo lang sa 55 kasi yun yung value niya at the date ng ano natin, which is December 31, 2022. January 1 yung grant date, 2023, di ba? So, right after nun, isang araw. So, therefore, 800 times 55, so 44,000 yun. Therefore, pag pinagbawas mo, ibig sabihin, 1,000 pala, ma'am, yung equity component. Kasi pag equity pinili, 45 pala. Pag debt lang, 44. So, yung 1,000, equity component yun. So, ganyan nangyayari. Bifurcate natin siya. Now, sa pag-entry natin, tatlo yung entry mo or yung account affected. Siyempre, yung comp expense and then yung SAR para dun sa payable natin, yung nagbabago yung value, and then another credit para dun sa equity alternative. So therefore, entry mo dyan, yung compensation expense natin would be 23,700, which is yung pertaining sa SAR natin, 800 times 58, di ba? Kasi yun yung bago niya. over 2. So, 23,200 yun. And then yung 1,000 na to, hatiin mo yan sa dalawa kasi dalawa yung vesting period. So, kaya 500 yun. Kaya debit comp expense, total ng dalawa. Credit SAR, 23,200 credit. Share premium, 500 pesos. So, same lang yun ang process dun sa mga sumunod natin. Now, what if ano yung naging treatment or naging choice ni President? So, pag pinili ni President, cash settlement, so sabihin, cash yung babayad ni company. Kaya meron kang credit na cash 48,000. Nasaan ba kasi yung 48,000 na yan, ma'am? Ang 48,000 na yan ay cash. So, 60 yun, di ba, as of end of the year. So, 60 times, ilang shares to? Kapag cash alternative, 800. So, 48,000 yun. Kaya credit cash, 48,000. Si share premium unexercised, credit mo na din kasi hindi na nga ginamit yung share premium, di ba? Or yung option. Kasi ang ginawa niya, hinayaan niya na pera na lang yung babayad sa kanya. So, unexercised, credit mo na yon. And then debit si share option na yun na nga yung nilipat mo sa unexercised. And then debit SAR, yung updated na value niya at 60 pesos ng 48,000. Now, what if equity naman yung pinili, ma'am? So kung equity naman, edi tanggalin mo pa rin si SAR. Yun nga lang, wala kang credit na cash kasi hindi ka naman magbabayad. Kasi hindi naman ikaw magbabayad kasi hindi niya nga pinili yung cash. Pinili niya si equity. So debit share premium yung share option natin na 1,000. Debit ordinary share which is 900 times yung par niya na 35 which is ito yun given dito. The excess naman ay share premium. So ganun yung treatment natin kapag share-based transaction with cash alternative. Okay? Hindi na. Okay. So proceed lang tayo. I think saglit na lang naman to. Saglit na lang. So proceed tayo sa appropriation of retained earnings. So, sa appropriation ng retained earnings, so before natin yung term na appropriation, di ba alam naman natin pag sinabing retained earnings, ito yung accumulated profits natin, no? Meron tayong accumulated profits na meron niyang adjustment. So, yung retained earnings, hindi lang income talaga yung napasok dyan. So, dito sa table sa baba, ano ba yung mga debit sa retained earnings? So, syempre, nandun yung kapag loss na nga i-close natin, kapag dividend, may dividend declaration, kaya merong balancing figure and conversion ng retirement, 'di ba? Pag merong losses, 'di ba, sa RE siya papasok. And then treasury transaction, 'di ba? Binabawas na natin 'yung sa retained earnings kasi ililipat mo siya dun sa ano binawasan na siya kasi magiging appropriated na din siya. And then recapitalization effects, affected din 'yon. Adjustment from prior period, 'di ba? Binabawas natin 'yun doon or depende kung ano 'yung adjustment. Cumulative effect ng change in accounting policy, meron din dan. And then sa credit naman, ano 'yung nakakadagdag? Profit. Adjustment for prior period na nakakapagpadagdag ng RE. Same with cumulative effect, quasi-reorganization, kasi zero out natin yung deficit kapag quasi-reorg, and the revaluation surplus, realize. Kasi di ba nalilipat natin yung reval surplus sa RE kung natatandaan nyo pa sa PPE? Diba? So yun yung kaya nag-credit tayo ng revaluation surplus na realize. So pag dinedebit mo si revaluation surplus, kinikredit mo siya as RE. Okay? So, next naman natin ay, hindi ko, nalakdawan ko pala. So, ano ba yung nagiging reason kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng appropriation? So, alam mo na yung RE. Bakit nag-appropriate tayo, ma'am, ng portion ng RE natin para sa specific purpose? So, yun daw appropriation na yan ay result of the following. It's either legal, contractual, or discretionary. So, when we say legal requirement, ibig sabihin by the law, kailangan talaga siya mag-appropriate. So, example nito yung treasury shares, di ba? And then contractual agreement naman as per bond indenture, pag nakalagay doon na kailangan mag-appropriate ka ng 10%, ganyan, in regards to your agreement. So, doon din yung nagiging reason kaya nagkakaroon ng appropriation. And then lastly, discretionary action as per management naman to. Kung ano yung sinabi nila, kung per management kailangan appropriate tayo ng gantong specific number. So, next naman natin ay dividend. So, pag sinabing dividend, familiar na naman tayo dyan. So, we are talking about kapag dividend, tatlong date. So, we have declaration, record date, and then settlement date. So when we say declaration date, so ang nangyari dito, mag-journalize ka ng reduction sa RE. Kasi di ba pag declaration debit, RE, credit kung ano mo yung i-credit natin. And then record date, ito yung date kung kailan, kung ano, sino yung nasa listahan ng shareholders, sila yung entitled dun sa dividends. And then settlement date, ito na yung date na magbabayad na. Therefore, meron kang JE dito for the payment. So we have different types of dividends. So you can look na lang sa book natin. Sinimplify ko na lang siya dito. So with regards sa forms of dividends, very familiar na naman tayo sa mga items dito. So syempre yung una, cash dividend. So when you say cash dividend, so pag na-declare ka debit or credit cash dividend payable. And then settlement, bayaran mo lang yun. So debit cash, credit cash. Now, sa property dividend, depende kung anong property yung pinag-uusapan na ipababayad mo. So, pero entry mo debit RE, credit property dividends payable, na basically mostly naka-fair value. And then credit C, property dividends payable, pagbabayaran mo na siya gamit yung uh, assets for distribution natin. Say for example, equity investment at fair value. Okay, credit mo siya doon. Now, next naman natin, share dividend or other term would be bonus issue. So, when you say share dividend or bonus issue, may basihan tayo dito. So, kapag yung percentage ng share dividend or bonus issue ay less than 20%, ang gagamitin nating value ay at fair value. Pero if greater than na or equal to 20%, ang gagamitin mo ng value sa pag-record mo ay at par. Okay? Ganun yung nangyayari dan. So, pag declaration, debit, RE, credit, share dividends distributable, and then settlement date, debit, share dividend distributable, credit, ordinary share capital. Kasi nga, di ba, additional na siya shares. Now, another one would be the script dividend. Pertain naman to sa parang notes, no? So, pag ganito yung scenario, debit ka lang ng RE, credit script dividend payable, and then on the settlement date, meron kang i-record na interest. So, debit script debit in expense or payable kung nagkaroon ka na ng accrual before, and then credit C, cash. And then liquidating dividend naman, debit to APIC lang siya. Okay, so ganun yung mga forms of dividends natin. You can look na lang din. And then, next naman natin would be the allocation of cash dividend. So, ito yung na-mention ko kanina, di ba? So, kapag meron tayong cash dividend, may order of distribution lang. Hindi lang yun basta makabawa. So, anong nangyayari dan? Depende kung ano ba yung types ng preference na nakasama dun sa pagre-record natin. Say, for example, location ng cash dividend tayo. So, ang order talaga ng distribution niya by default is dividends in arrears kapag cumulative preference share. After nun, current dividends na preference share, and then remainder would be ordinary share. Now, if participating in preference share, doon ang papasok yung last na part natin na kapag may excess dividend after compliance of the first three natin, any excess would be allocated for participating part preference share. Okay? So sa book natin, say for example, ito, illustration. So the capital structure of a company is as follows. So debit, debit tuloy. Preference share capital, 10%, 100 par 10,000 share, therefore par value 1 million. Ordinary share par value 3 million. So, anong nangyari dito, may year 1, year 2. So, sa year 1, ang dineclare 90,000. And then, dun sa year 2 naman, ang dineclare niya ay 600,000 pesos. Okay? Now, annual dividend and preference share would be 10% nung par niya, which is 100,000 pesos. So, assumption 1 muna tayo. Sabi sa assumption 1, preference share daw ay non-cumulative and then non-participating. So, kung non-cumulative, wala kang dividends in arrears, and then non-participating, wala kang i-allocate kay participating after the excess. Okay, after distribution of the all. So, kung 90,000 declared, yun lang yung magiging declared natin. So, kaya dito sa year 1, 90,000 lang yung preference. So, sa next naman, year 2, since non-cumulative siya, yung 10,000 na kulang ng year 1, wala na tayong paki doon. Kaya, 100,000 na current na lang yung distribute natin ng next year. And then yung balance, which is since ang declared ng year 2, 600,000, 100 ay current na ng preference. So yung 500 na yun, lahat na yun ay kay ordinary. Okay? So assumption number 2 naman, cumulative na, pero non-participating pa rin. So kung cumulative, nadagdagan lang yung distribution mo ng 10,000 as dividend in arrears dito. Tapos nabawasan yung pang remaining kay ordinary. So assumption number 3 naman, non-cumulative and fully participating. So kung non-cumulative, walang dividends in arrears, pero fully participating yan, kaya 90 lang ng first year, second year, 100 yung current, 300 yung kay ordinary kasi 3 million yung part times yung 10% na required. Therefore, 300,000 yon. So, kung 600 minus 100 minus 300, so may 200,000 na remainder. Yung 200,000 na yon, i-allocate mo lang based din sa par niya. So, si preference 1 over 4, si ordinary 3 over 4. So, yun na yung magiging distribution mo kapag non-cumulative and then fully participating. Okay? So, next tayo. So, next naman natin ay, ganun pa rin naman, pero cumulative tsaka fully participating. So, kung cumulative lang, nadagdagan lang yun sa pertaining sa dividend in arrears natin. And then, yung remainder, hindi na 200, 190 na lang, gawa ng 10,000. And then, allocate mo lang ulit, base dun sa par natin. And then, lastly, assumption number 5, cumulative participating, hindi siya fully participating. Siya ay participating pero at additional 4% lang. So, kapag ganun yung scenario, yung preference natin ng year 1, 90,000 pa rin. Nung year 2, may dividend in arrears kasi nga cumulative siya. And then yung ordinary na current tsaka sa preference, tig 100 tsaka 300. Now, yung remainder natin, which is 600 minus 10 minus 100 minus 300. So, that would be 150, 190 pa din. So, yung 190 na yun, no? Since may limit yung participation, so 4% lang daw, edi 4% lang nung par nila, therefore 40 tsaka 120 yun. Eh, ang naging remainder natin ay 190, 160 lang naman yan. So yung 30,000 mapupunta na yung kay ordinary kasi nga may limit lang yung participation ni preference. So kay 30,000 ay ordinary na. Ma'am, paano po kapag yung dividends declare less than 570? Paano po yung ano nun, allocation nitong nung para dito sa limit kung hindi pala umabot naman dun sa 4% na yan. So pag ganun daw yung scenario, the remaining dividends after the current dividends based on a stipulated rate is allocated proportionately between the preference and ordinary share. Kung proportionately, ibig sabihin, 1 over 4, 3 over 4 lang din yan. Kasi parehas lang din namang 4%. Okay? So, ganun yung mangyayari kapag less than 570. Okay? So moving forward, so I think last slide na to kasi yung book di ko na i-discuss yung book value per share. So doon na lang tayo sa last which is si quasi reorganization. So, ano meron sa quasi-reorganization? So, anong nangyayari kasi dito, kapag yung company is in distress now or in difficulty financially, they are permitted by SEC to undergo quasi-reorganization and then revalue their property or PPE if current value is substantially more than cost. So, anong nangyayari most likely kapag quasi-reorganization, yung retained earnings kasi nila, it's either negative or zero. So, most likely negative. So kapag negative yung nila, RE, so dig sabihin deficit sila, ang ginagawa nila, they have to reorganize, mag-revalue ng property, etc., etc., para mag-zero out yung RE. Okay? So, from negative, magiging zero. Ganun yung goal doon. So, paano nangyayari doon? So, kapag nagkaroon ka ng reorganization, say for example, pataas yung PPE, apply mo lang sa PPE natin na debit, for example, equipment, credit, credit, reval surplus. And then, ang nangyayari, kapag nagkaroon ka ng adjustment, say for example sa inventory naman, ganun, adjustment mo yun kay RE din. And then kapag meron ka ng reval surplus ng gawa ng sa PPA revaluation, so yung negative sa ano natin, RE, pwede mo na siyang i-offset kay revaluation surplus hanggang mag-zero siya. Okay? So may mga instances na kulang yung ano, ganun scenario. So, anong nangyayari, ang nagiging treatment nila kapag parang hindi kaya mag-zero out yung RE dahil lang sa revaluation ng PPE, ganyan, may mga instances kung if you look sa book natin, meron din ang nangyayari, nagkakaroon ng ano, recapitalization. Say for example, kung yung par 50 pesos before, gagawin na lang 30 pesos para magkaroon ng malaking share premium, dun ibabawas or i-zero out yung revaluation, yung retained earnings. So kaya pag nakita nyo sa book natin, sa page 125, so may example dan ang ginawa is nagkaroon ng change sa par or stated value para ma-absorb nung share premium yung RE, para mag-zero yung RE. So ganun siya nangyayari. Okay? So, kapag ganun yung scenario, kung na-zero mo na yung RE, no? Anong nangyayari after nun, ma'am? Kung na-zero mo na due to quasi reorg. So, si RE, hindi ka pwede mag-declare ng dividends up to the amount of deficit wipeout during the quasi reorg. Say, for example, 1 million yung na-wipe out, negative siya before, naging zero na lang kasi nga nagkaroon ka ng quasi reorg. So, yung 1 million na yun, hindi ka pwede mag-declare ng dividend up to that amount. Okay, so dapat pag lumagpas sa 1 million, say for example, nagkaroon ka ng RE na actual na 1.2. So yung 200, yun na lang dapat yung pwede ka mag declare ng dividend. Kasi yung 1 million, ano imaginary yun eh, 'di ba? Kasi kaya ka lang nag-zero nun kasi nga wipe out mo through quasi reorg. So dapat di ka pwede mag-declare ng dividend up to the amount na deficit na na-wipe out during the quasi reorganization. And then therefore, also, losses cannot be charged from revaluation surplus. Okay, di ka pwede magbawas sa revaluation surplus ng losses. Okay? And then, pag may quasi organization, you have to disclose that for at least 3 years. So, ganun yung theory natin doon. So, next slide ko na lang dito yung sa book value per share. So, ito lang naman yun. So, you can look na lang sa book natin. So, total shareholders equity lang yun divided by the numbers of shares outstanding. Yun yung pinaka-book value natin unless may more than one classes. Kasi pag may more than one classes, sabihin, kailangan mo compute hiwalay yung book value nila. So, si preference share, kailangan mo i-account for its liquidation value plus dividends in arrears required to be paid. So, you can look na lang din sa book natin. Di naman yung komplikado if you want to look at it na lang. So, ang coverage ng finance naman natin is hindi kasama yung share options. So, yung na-mention ko naman siya before, nasa ko na din sa GC. So, yun na lang yung for review natin. So, next meeting, ano na lang tayo sa intact, yung answering tayo nung homework. I think yun na lang natira sa atin. So, answering na lang ng homework sa leases. And then, ano tayo, short review or recap ng intact 3 for your finals. And then sa tax natin, tuloy na lang natin yung sa percentage tax na naman tayo. So, percentage tax excise tsaka yung DST. So, onti lang naman i-discuss natin sa excise tsaka DST. Kasi hindi naman talaga yung lahat kailangan ano kasi nga theory lang and then yung rates lang na importante kasi masyado malawak yun. So more on percentage tax tayo, yung sections 116 I guess to 129. Discuss lang natin yun and then okay na tayo dun sa tax din natin. So yun na lang class. So see you next meeting for our remaining discussion for the finals coverage. So, yun lang. So, required disclosures, you can look na lang din. So, I think na-upload ko na naman to sa drive natin. So, you can look at the PowerPoint na lang din doon. Okay? So, yun lang. Thank you for listening. I'll stop sharing my screen.